So as we've been reporting, just a few hours from now, the January 6th Select Committee is going to vote to recommend that 2 former Trump officials be held in contempt of Congress. Following that, the panel will meet behind closed doors to take action on a controversy that has burst wide open while I was away over the last few days. NBC News is reporting that they're going to be discussing whether to seek an interview with Ginni Thomas. She's a conservative activist and, of course, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. Her bombshell texts to former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows have revealed that she peddled QAnon conspiracy theories about the election results and tried to influence the White House's campaign to overturn the results of a free and fair election in the United States of America. It's what the Washington Post calls, quote, an extraordinary pipeline between Virginia Thomas and President Donald Trump's top aide during a period when Trump and his allies were vowing to go to the Supreme Court in an effort to negate the election results. Those text messages themselves would be alarming enough, just the what of them, if it weren't for the fact that Justice Clarence Thomas has had a rule on January 6 related cases that ended up before the Supreme Court. And I don't know, I'm a gal who doesn't believe in coincidences. Maybe you do. He was the only Supreme Court justice to dissent when every other Supreme Court justice rejected Donald Trump's bid to block the January 6 Select Committee from accessing Donald Trump's White House records. Luke, Frank, and Claire are back with us. We talk a lot here, Claire, about this fact that, and it's maybe an inconvenient truth if you're Chief Justice Tom Roberts. It's a sad truth if you're an American in either party. But since the Supreme Court had to rule on Bush v. Gore, the United States Supreme Court is 20% less popular than it was in the aftermath of that. It now is held in high regard by only 40% of the American people. An epic collapse in terms of trust and credibility. And now the one guy, the one justice who didn't think that the January bipartisan Select Committee should have access to Trump's document happens to be married to someone who is Bannon-esque, not just in her worldview, but in her contacts with the highest levels of the Trump White House. What say you?
Well, first, let's say what the law is. I want to read the law very clearly. The law says a Supreme Court, any federal judge or magistrate, including Supreme Court justice, must recuse themselves when, quote, impartiality might be reasonably questioned. Hello? This is a woman who not only embraced the conspiracy, she was trying to shape it. She was trying to make it happen. She was an active participant at the highest levels of our government. And I mean, Justice Roberts, he did a big speech about how we can't really have anybody else deciding whether or not a justice should recuse themselves. Excuse me? I think he said something like letting other justices second guess their colleagues would really could turn ugly. It could turn ugly, he said. Well, this is ugly. This is really ugly. We have ethics committees in Congress where you have to judge other members of Congress, and they have successfully run people out of Congress for ethics violations. I'm telling you, the Supreme Court better wake up here, because if there aren't people in front of Congress with their hands in the air swearing to tell the truth about this escapade and what's going on with Ginni Thomas, then we really do not have the checks and balances in our government that we need to have.
Well, you know, Luke, Betsy Woodruff Swan reported in the last hour that the 1-6 committee has been in conversations about how to and whether to engage Ginni Thomas before their committee's investigative work before these texts were made public. And I want to highlight the dates and read from some of these texts. So one comes on November 10th, after the election had been called for President Joe Biden. And Ginni Thomas, wife of Clarence Thomas, texts this to White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, quote, "Help this great president stand firm, Mark." 3 exclamation points went to the Trump School of Grammar, clearly. "You were the leader with him, who is standing for America's constitutional governance at the precipice. The majority knows Biden and the left is attempting the greatest heist of our history." Now, that's one thing, you know, I don't know, from someone who doesn't have access to the best and most vetted information available. But it's something entirely different coming from someone with access to the truth. This one on November 19th, 10 days after the election, quote, sounds like Sidney, we assume Sidney Powell, and her team are getting inundated with evidence of fraud. Make a plan. Release the Kraken and save us from the left taking America down. Now she's, you know, crazier than Fox and right in that sort of OAN hub. And then on January 10th, after the deadly insurrection, she texts this, quote, we are living through what feels like the end of America. Most of us are disgusted with the VP and are in listening mode to see where to fight with our teams. Those who attack the Capitol are not representative of our great teams of patriots for Donald J. Trump. What is sort of the committee's theory of the case on why Ginny Thomas matters?
Right. Well, the Ginny Thomas texts have presented an issue for debate for the committee. You know, they've had these for months. Mark Meadows turned these over late last year. And at first, the committee believed that Ginny Thomas was just kind of one of many people who were sending conspiracy theories to Mark Meadows and people in the White House. But not everybody on the committee had seen the text, and perhaps their true impact hadn't gotten out. So this week, once they were revealed, it sparked a new round of debate. It raised a bunch of questions for the committee. One, she has access to not only Mark Meadows, but apparently Jared Kushner. She was instrumental in pushing for certain things to happen with regards to overturning the election. And so many people have gotten subpoenaed by the committee. They've had more than 750 interviews. And so why shouldn't Ginny Thomas also be brought in? And so it started to look like there was perhaps a double standard for her, and she was getting some sort of special treatment. So just today, we've learned that, Liz Cheney and Benny Thompson have been discussing this matter with the committee, with staff, with investigators, with other members, and they are likely to send her a letter or reach out to her in some other way soon to ask her to come in for an interview.
So, you know, Frank, you can also hold up this debate and these conversations about the substance of what she texts and the people to whom she sent those messages. But you must also hold up the through line of how Clarence Thomas has ruled on every case relating to the 2020 election. And he's in a community of one. So here are the cases that have come before the court around the 2020 election. December 11th, 2020, Supreme Court refuses to hear that ludicrous Texas lawsuit to overturn the results in 6 states that, not for nothing, didn't include Texas. So Alito and Thomas said that the court should have taken up that case. On February 22nd, 2021, the Supreme Court rejected the case by the Pennsylvania GOP challenging vote-by-mail rules. Gorsuch, Alito, and Thomas, again, dissent. And then here, truly just one of one, January 19th, 2022, the Supreme Court rejects Trump's executive privilege claim over the White House documents, which we don't know, I guess, and if we do, Luke, please jump in and correct me, but we don't know if he knew that, I guess the Mark Meadows text had already been turned over. That wasn't part of the White House document dump. But we don't know what he knew or didn't know about his wife's communications with senior White House aides. He's the lone dissent in that decision. What do you make of that as an investigator?
It smells badly. And I think, you and I, Nicole, have talked before about the long list of things that need to get fixed after the Trump administration. And we, kind of keep it on our desk or nightstand. Let's add to this that the Supreme Court doesn't have an ethics code. Let's add that to this mix. Because, yes, Claire is correct that there are federal laws governing judges, absolutely, and it's a very low bar. If there's a reasonable concern, you got to recuse yourself. So the American people need to know, we deserve to know, whether Clarence Thomas brought this issue to the Chief Justice, whether the Chief Justice and Clarence Thomas had a discussion, whether there was any decision there that Clarence blew off or not. We need to know that for the sake of the rule of law. But for those who say that this is hands off of Clarence Thomas, this is all about his wife and her free speech, let me say this. This isn't free speech. Free speech ends when you're starting to strategize a coup attempt, when you're knowingly trying to overturn a legitimate election, when you have the influence of the last name Thomas, because the last name Smith or Gonzalez or anything else would never have gotten through to Mark Meadows. And imagine yourself in Mark Meadows' position. You are now thinking 2 and 3 steps ahead. Someday I might have to testify about how he responded to these election results. Someday the president of the United States might have to explain himself. And I really don't want to upset Mrs. Thomas. So I'm going to give her an audience. I'm going to try to appease her because I'm thinking 2 and 3 steps ahead about things going to the Supreme Court that might impact me. And guess what? It did. They are going about Clarence Thomas.